What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sideline Sports. I'm your host, Trevor. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I appreciate all of your support. We have just passed 1,000 views, and we have 27 subscribers. Not a huge amount, but thank every single one of you. And if you are watching the videos, please hit the subscribe. I need more subscribers, and I hope you're enjoying it. I'm going to keep going with it, and it's great, guys. Awesome. One thing I want to go ahead and remind you of is that I will be doing the Niner podcast every Friday and the Raider podcast every Monday. And when the Warriors show up, we'll figure out what day we're going to do that on, because there's multiple games in a week, and I'll probably start doing the podcast shorts every day at that point, possibly, or very close to it. So just stay tuned. I appreciate all you right now. We're going to talk about the Niners 32-19 win over the Jets on Monday. I could not be more hyped about how that game went down. We took Aaron Rodgers out again. Listen, Aaron Rodgers can't come into San Francisco and win. He just can't. And I'll tell you what, the Jets came in with a hyped defense and a hyped offense, and they thought they were going to come in here and challenge the 49ers for a win. And that did not happen in any way, shape, or form, offensively or defensively for the Jets. So let's get into it. First off, I'll start slow with the kicker. Moody hit every single field goal attempt that he had and every single extra point attempt that he had. So great on him. He didn't do anything shaky. He was good. And that's all I can say about the kicker, because what else can you say? He's just got to make field goals. So he did that. That's awesome. So good there. Coming out party for J.P. Mason, and I've been telling you guys this since the training camp began. This guy is looking like a star in the making. With Christian McCaffrey out, Mason came in, touched the ball for 28 touches and 147 yards. He went off. Everybody he hit, he pushed backwards. He ran with authority. He had a touchdown, first touchdown in the NFL. Welcome to the NFL, Mason. But he looked like a veteran that could handle a full load as a starter. I cannot wait to see the combination of Mason and Christian McCaffrey when they both get on the field. Okay? This running game is going to be elite when Christian McCaffrey is healthy. But I have 100% confidence that Mason can hold it down until McCaffrey gets back. That being said, he looked like a stud, and this was his coming out party. This was his game, and he was a highlight of it. He showed the whole NFL that he's ready to go right now, and he's not to be messed with. He definitely cannot be taken for granted. This guy is looking awesome. I can't be more excited after following him through training camp and preseason games to see him come out on Monday Night Football and light it up. Guy was incredible. So I don't think we can say much more about Mason except for let's go. Let's go, Niners, on to Minnesota, okay? And we got Minnesota at 10 a.m. on Sunday, so don't forget to watch the 49ers 10 a.m. Sunday. We don't traditionally do as well in Minnesota the last few years, but I have a feeling this year is going to be a little bit different. This team just feels like they got a bad taste in their mouth from the Super Bowl, and they're ready to get back there and make it right. There is no Super Bowl hangover, guys. People were talking about how they thought that the Niners preseason and training camp was looking a little bit shaky, a little bit ugly, and maybe they weren't going to come back and be as good as they were this year as last year. Not true. Not true. I think they might be even better. Yes, it's an ensemble of players that all come together to make the team what it is. From Debo to Christian McCaffrey to Brandon Ayuk to George Kittle. Like, all these people are pieces that we need, and they all picked up the slack when Christian McCaffrey was out. But we dominated the Jets with no Christian McCaffrey. Imagine what we're going to do when we get McCaffrey back. It's going to be no contest, guys. And the Jets were supposed to be good this year. Now, maybe they'll turn out they won't be very good. Aaron Rodgers is coming back from an injury. He's an old quarterback. He can move okay for his age. No doubt about it. I saw he can move okay. I don't think he's going to be scrambling much this year. I really don't. But you know what? You can never take him for granted, and you can never think just because he's a little bit older or coming off an injury, he's not going to just take you to the shed, basically. So, not going to do it to the Niners, but let's see what he does to other teams before I start talking about how elite this team is supposed to be. So it was a lot of talk about the defense being elite, but the Niners had none of it. They didn't even stop for a second to even fear this team or think about what this team could or could not do to them. They just came out and dominated from beginning to end. It was really, there was never a point in the game where I thought it was going to be a close game. There really wasn't. Even in the beginning when it was kind of close, right? So it was 32-19, and the Jets scored the last touchdown basically in garbage time. So it was kind of a gimme anyway. The Niners weren't trying to get anybody hurt, and they weren't trying to stop them from scoring a touchdown because the game was over. But, I mean, it would have been 32-12. It was a shellacking, guys. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. The Jets, they're not beating the Niners this year, barring any injuries. I'm just going to say it. There's no world where I see that happening. Debo's had an okay night. Deebo Samuels came off with 8 attempts and 23 yards, but he did get 1 TD. So between him and Mason, they both got TDs on the night. It was good. Deebo Samuels did what he was supposed to do. The ball was spread around the field pretty well between Deebo Samuels and JP Mason and Brandon Ayuk and Kittle a little bit. I still think Kittle needs to be used more. I just feel like Kittle is not getting fed enough. I think he's hungry. I mean, we got to remember back to a few years ago when he touched the ball and just ran downfield, and it took 3 guys to take him down. I think we kind of forget about that. So, I mean, for Kittle, I love to see him get involved in the offense a little bit more. That being said, there's lots of stars on the offense, guys, and I think they're using Kittle to block a lot, which they like to do, and that's fine. But I would love to see him gain a few more targets down the field. So, I mean, Kittle had a good game too. He did okay, but, he didn't get a lot of touches in the game. He got 4 receptions for 40 yards. It's fine. 4 receptions to me isn't enough, though, for Kittle. I'd like to see him double that in a game. But there's so much talent around the 49ers. It's hard to give everybody a piece of the ball. So that being said, I think that the Niners did really well at moving the ball around and getting everybody involved and really just having an overall pretty balanced, complete game, to be honest. They looked really good. One guy I'm going to talk about that I'm not super excited about his game was Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk did okay, but he dropped 2 receptions, one of which I could have caught, and he missed it. The third one that he missed, I'm not going to blame him because he was diving for it, although it was catchable for him. He got paid. He held out and he got paid like a top-tier receiver. He needed to come to the game on Monday night and be the top-tier receiver. Of course he didn't because he held out. He wasn't in training camp. He didn't get any conditioning or practicing in that I know of. Did he do anything on his own? Maybe. But the rust was there on Monday night, and it was clear. And it's frustrating because even Brandon Ayuk himself said, I could have made this process a little bit easier. Well, hell yeah. You turned it into a circus, Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk, you turned it into a circus, and you got paid the same amount of money you were going to get paid anyway. And by the way, it was fair. It was fair, Ayuk. You got what you deserved, maybe even a little more. A $30 million contract. So let's go. Let's go. That rust was going to be there, okay? There was no denying it. It was going to be there because you weren't there in training camp. But you could have showed up for training camp and negotiated your contract. You could have. I think it still would have worked out. But neither here nor there. Brandon Ayuk is only going to get better, okay? Game 1, he dropped a couple passes. He also had a few receptions too. So it was fine. He had 5 targets and 2 receptions. So he's going to ramp up. The Niners had a great, complete game, and they weren't even completely firing on all cylinders as far as everybody 100% up to speed. We didn't have Christian McCaffrey, and Brandon Ayuk is still getting ready. And we dominated. When those two come back, I don't think there's a team in the league the Niners shouldn't beat. I said this last year. I'm saying it this year. I think they're better than the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they were better than Kansas City Chiefs last year. But somehow in the Super Bowl, we gave the Chiefs a little bit more time than they should have had. We should have ran the ball more. When you give somebody like an elite quarterback from the Kansas City Chiefs to take the ball and go down the field with 2 minutes left, he's going to do just that, guys. He is an elite quarterback. If you give him even an inch, he's going to take a mile, and he'll take it happily. No worries. It's going to be easy for him. So I believe we should have ran the ball a little bit more last year. Also, I think the defense got figured out and broke down pretty easily in the second half of the Super Bowl last year for the Niners, and they remedied that by getting rid of their defensive coordinator, which they should have done. I think he came out with a great plan, but he didn't adjust during the game, and that is what football is for coaches, okay? You've got to be able to adjust in the game. You know, you have your players, you have your game plan, and that's good. But if you can't adjust, then you're going to lose a lot of games to coaches who are smarter that can adjust. I said this about Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has taken over the Chargers. Do I think that the Chargers are an elite team? I think they're okay. I think they're a good team. I think with Harbaugh, they're a great team because Harbaugh can make adjustments. He did that with the Niners, and he took them deep into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl. And if he was still a coach today, I think he would have maybe won a Super Bowl with the Niners already, quite honestly. So as a defensive coordinator, you have to be able to adjust because Kyle Shanahan's running the offense. Anyway, those are a couple reasons why I think the Niners got beat by the Chiefs last year. I don't think it was a matter of talent. I think the Niners, as far as talent goes, has way more talent on their team than the Chiefs do. I believe that. I don't care what anybody says. They can talk to me about it and give me the reasons. In fact, go ahead and leave some comments, guys, so I don't have a lot of comments in my videos that often. Please go to my podcast, leave some comments, and I'll comment back. I'd love to stir up a conversation about that. Also, I will be having a co-host here pretty soon. Unfortunately, he's moving right now, so I think it's going to be a few weeks before I get him in, but I do have a plan to get my co-host in pretty soon so we can talk a little bit more back and forth and bounce some ideas off of each other, and probably going to make for a little bit more exciting podcast. But for now, at least you got me, and you got my football knowledge, and you got my internal feelings about what's going on with the team. I got my finger on the pulse of the team, I believe. So you're going to get some good, honest truths out of me anyway. Oh yeah, Kyle Juszczyk. Actually, Kyle Juszczyk only had 2 receptions, but he had 40 yards, and when he got the ball, he made the most of it. So I was really kind of happy to see Kyle Juszczyk even getting involved in the plays. It was great. The game was just a really fun game to watch. The Niners dominated, like I said. I mean, that was it. So, speaking of Christian McCaffrey, Achilles tendonitis is not something to be playing around with. It's not something you want to rush a player back from. That's what he's dealing with right now. It can be scraped. It can be treated in multiple different ways. But at the end of the day, it can be a 2-week injury. It can be a 2-month injury. We don't know how long that tendonitis is going to linger around for. But Achilles tendonitis needs to go away, and he needs to feel 100% before he gets on the field. Because if he's feeling 80% and he gets on the field with Achilles tendonitis and he ruptures Achilles or just maybe aggravates it even more, he's going to be out a lot longer. So they have to really make sure that he's going to come back. Now, Christian McCaffrey did get out onto the practice field yesterday. So he made improvements to get out on the field. He's clearly feeling better. And when they talk to him, when the reporters talk to him, he's saying, I think I have a good chance at going this Sunday. Now, me personally, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan's going to take a chance with putting him in. I could be wrong. He might play. Now, I don't know how he looks right now because I haven't seen the practices. I don't know. Maybe he's good to go, and maybe it feels good and the tendonitis is gone. If that's true, great. Let's go. Let's go. But I don't like the idea of getting him in there if he's only 80 or 90%. And let's be honest, guys. Kyle Shanahan is the kind of coach that runs his players in the ground sometimes. He sometimes does it. This is one player, don't rush him back because he has an injury past and you want him. He's the best running back in the league. You want him at 100%, and you don't want to even think about the Achilles thing coming back. So if Mason can hold it down for another game or two, I'm cool with it. The Niners look great right now. I think we're going to go into Minnesota and we're going to get a win. I'm not worried about that. They don't have an elite quarterback. Their defense is better than the Jets. I truly believe their defense is better than the Jets. But is that going to matter when we have all the weapons we have? I don't think so. I think their defense is good, but they're not going to be able to get at Brock Purdy as much as people might say, which brings me to my next point. I have been talking about how worried I've been about the offensive line for the 49ers all offseason. But you know what? That offensive line is doing and looking really, really good. They're looking like they're going to be an elite offensive line, guys. I mean, they have Dominic Purdy, who is a rookie that looks like he's going to be a Pro Bowler, I don't know, this year, next year. He is an offensive lineman that was an absolute diamond of a pickup, a diamond in the rough, or whatever you want to call it. Nobody knew he was going to come out and be the way he is. He is a breath of fresh air for the offensive line, and he's doing his job well. I am super excited about Dominic Purdy coming in. I mean, we got Trent Williams, Jake Brendel, and Colton McKivitz all playing at a high level right now. So I think they're a top-tier offensive line. I take it back. They are playing extremely well. Now, I will say this. We're not deep at offensive line, so we don't want to see somebody get hurt. So like I said earlier in the video, barring anybody actually getting injured, this is a Super Bowl team. This is a Super Bowl team ready to win a Super Bowl this year. We have some thin areas on the team, though. Some of those thin areas would be the offensive line and the defensive line, which I'll go back to D now. Defense looked good. You can take a look at that defensive line, and they look good. Bosa looked good. Some people will say because Bosa only got 1 sack in the game that somehow he's not doing his job or he's not playing at the elite level he should. It's not true. He's actually disrupting play on that defensive line a lot. He did it on the Jets line, and there's more to playing on the defensive line and rushing at the quarterback and getting a sack. Like, yes, we want to see him get more quarterback sacks, but at the same time, he is doing a lot to disrupt their offensive line and disrupt the pass protection, guys. So he's helping other players get free and get in at the quarterback. He's doing a lot. So Nick Bosa is starting off the season looking really good for the defense, looking really, really good. So they're looking elite too. They always did, though. It's just the depth. If somebody gets hurt on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line in particular, where we could see the Niners start to struggle and have to figure out what they do next to put pressure on the quarterback. Right now, everything looks good. We're firing on all cylinders. I'm not going to start talking about the injury thing anymore because I don't want to bring that upon the Niners. I'm a little bit of a superstitious person myself. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. I don't want to bring it up. So, anyway, we're looking good. And, oh, by the way, back to Jennings, who was 5 for 5 with 64 yards. Jennings continues to be a wide receiver that is called upon sporadically, I guess I would say. He's not in making plays every single play. He's not in playing every single play of the game. But when he's called upon, he catches the ball. He is in and catching the ball every time the play is called for him. I am super impressed with Jennings. So, sorry. So, let me just say this. There are people out there who think that Jennings couldn't have held it down while Brandon Ayuk sat out. I am one that believed he could have 100% held down the wide receiver core if Brandon Ayuk sat out into the regular season. That's a bunch of what ifs and everything else because we got Brandon Ayuk back. But Jennings, man, I don't think anybody should take anything away from him. He is out there and making plays when he needs to make plays. And the more you feed him the ball, the more he's going to be out there catching it. I know that. I just have a feeling. But anyway, he was 5 for 5. Brandon Ayuk was, I think he had 5 targets and missed 2. So, sorry, guys. So, anyway, I just want to give some props to Jauan Jennings. The dude needs to get some props. I just don't think he gets enough of it. So, woohoo. Jauan Jennings. Right on, man. As usual, showing up to play. He's just a workhorse. He doesn't complain. He just shows up and plays. Badass. Dude's a badass. Hufanga. We've been wondering if Hufanga was going to make it back for Monday night. He didn't make it back. It wasn't kind of that surprising after up to like maybe a week before the game was going to be played, because at that point I think it was clear he needed some more time. But Kyle Shanahan does say Hufanga has a chance to play on Sunday at 10 a.m. in Minnesota. So let's see if maybe he can get out there and play. I cannot wait to see Hufanga back on the field. He is such a ball hawk. And with that secondary playing the way they're playing already without him out there, again, guys, Monday Night Football was dominant, but we don't have some of our players out there. Christian McCaffrey, Talanoa Hufanga. I mean, those are two guys, like, right off the bat that are missed, but not that much because we have so much elite talent on this team. It wasn't missed that much. But it will be later as we play tougher teams. But those guys will be back on the field by then. Brandon Ayuk will be knocking all the rust off and playing at a high level like he normally does. Brandon Ayuk's one of the best route runners in the league, guys. One of the best route runners in the league. I don't want to take anything away from him. He is an amazing wide receiver. I love it. The guy, I'm glad they paid him. I just want to see him get the rust knocked off and go at it, because he reminds me, I'm not going to say Jerry Rice, but he runs routes perfectly like Jerry Rice, as if he was working with Jerry Rice. Who knows? I don't know. I'm sure he's talked to him a few times. So Brandon Ayuk is a solid wide receiver who never gets hurt and is always running perfect routes. And hey, when all of these guys are healthy, or the few that we have that are unhealthy are back, Niners are even more dangerous than they were before. It's crazy how much talent this team has. It's absolutely unbelievable. So I'm super excited to see where this team goes. Now, let's get into Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was 19 for 29, and he had 231 yards passing. Not bad. Not a bad day for Brock Purdy. He was accurate. He was throwing the ball in the right direction. He wasn't making mistakes and forcing plays. He looked great. He was scrambling well. I think he was definitely causing fits for the Jets. I think he was causing a lot of fits for the Jets. And this is just Brock Purdy taking the next step, guys. He is going to be... No, let me take that back. He's an elite quarterback in the NFL. He's going to get the respect he deserves this year. Or he's not going to get it, but he's going to keep winning, guys. This guy, if you're not watching him, watch him play. Anybody who's not a Niner fan, I don't know if you're going to watch this if you're not a Niner fan, but anybody who is not a Niner fan should watch Brock Purdy play football. It's beautiful. The guy has no fear. He sits in the pocket. He progresses through his checkdowns perfectly. He knows when to... He has the feel to know when to get out of the pocket and scramble. Almost every single time. I've never seen him make a mistake that way. He's working hard. He's gained muscle. He's gained speed in the offseason. He is just taking the next step, guys. He's going to be better this year than last year. And that's hard to do. If you ask anybody honestly who the best quarterback in the league last year right now, it was Brock Purdy. And if they say it's somebody else, you have to show those people the numbers, because they don't know the numbers and they're uninformed. But the fact is, Brock Purdy, with his numbers, was the best quarterback in the league last year. Now, you have people out there that say, but look at all these weapons he has. Well, we don't live in a world of ifs and buts, right? He has the weapons, yes, and he uses them. But he's got a grit and nastiness to about him. He's got no fear. He stays in the pocket. He throws the ball with purpose. He knows when to run and get out of the way of harm and try and make a play. So those things happen whether you have elite wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, or not. You don't just play that way because you have elite players. You play that way and you enhance the elite players, guys. This guy is the conductor of a beautiful orchestra, and we're watching that orchestra right now, and it's good. It's really good. So I think with Brock Purdy, obviously he's going to get paid next year, and he deserves it. But we're looking at the next step this year. He's going to take it. And are there going to be good games and bad games? Sure there will be. Nobody's perfect. But Brock Purdy is the man. and he's only going to have to play another, I guess, year to get his respect from everybody. But we'll see. If I hear Mr. Irrelevant one more time, I'm probably going to throw up in my hat. It's absolutely ridiculous. The dude, take that off of his back. Mr. Irrelevant means nothing. Okay? Means nothing. He is Mr. Relevant. He is Mr. I'm the pinnacle of the game, and you should play football like I play football now. Everybody is chasing Brock Purdy for the numbers. Okay? Everybody. And I don't care who you talk about. Talk about Dak or talk about Aaron Rodgers, who's old now. You can talk about anybody you want. Lamar Jackson would be the next thing. He won last year for MVP, I believe. And I still think it should have went to Brock Purdy, but whatever. It went to Jackson because Jackson played well. But none of those guys are playing at Brock Purdy's level. They're not. Jackson can run the ball a little bit better. Okay? I don't know if he's a better quarterback or not, to be honest. I would say that if you put Jackson on the 49ers, he would do just as well as Brock Purdy. Who knows? Maybe better. I don't know. But I'm not going to go ahead and sit here and try and compare. All I know is the numbers, and the numbers show that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback in the league last year overall. So I just say, thank God the Niners finally got their franchise quarterback. He's out there playing, and he's playing so damn well. If they don't win a Super Bowl this year, I don't know who to blame. I don't know who to blame if they don't get it done this year. The coach? I guess. Because if we go to one more Super Bowl while we're up by 10, 15 points in the second half, and we don't run the ball down the other team's throat until the clock runs out, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to freaking lose it. I think the last two Super Bowls we lost are on Kyle Shanahan. I just feel that way. I'm sorry. The players were there. They showed up. They played. Kyle Shanahan made mistakes in the first one. He made mistakes in the second one. I'll take a little bit off of his shoulders in the second Super Bowl, which was last year, because our defense broke down because our defensive coordinator sucked. He was not a good defensive coordinator. He had to be, when they were talking about firing him halfway through the season, I was all for that too. I just didn't think he had any depth. His defense was good at the beginning of games, but he didn't game plan for what would happen when he got figured out. He couldn't adjust, and then the Niners still won a bunch of games, but he didn't make it easier on the offense. His defense broke down, so he's gone, okay? We got a new coordinator in town, and he's good, so we should be winning. We should be winning this year. If they lose this year, we'll have to see how it goes, but, I don't think Shanahan's on a hot seat or anything like that, but he might be. If he can't win the big one, if he goes to 3 Super Bowls and he can't take one away, I don't know what to say. Maybe it's time to change stuff up. I don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Shanahan and the way he coaches. We got to see him go out there and just take the next step and win the big one. And I think once he wins the big one, I think that will just steamroll into winning more than a few Super Bowls. I do think it just takes one win to get you over that hump and get you going into winning. Just let the landslide go and start winning multiple Super Bowls. I think that's possible. You look at the Warriors. Look at the Warriors and Steph Curry. Before 2014, they went to the playoffs, deep in the playoffs, lost to the Spurs, got the experience, came back, won an NBA title, and kept winning championships. Once they won that one, they knew how to do it, and they were together, they were gelling, and they just kept going. I feel like this is a team that can do just that. I think they should have done that already. To be honest, I think they should have done that a couple times already, but we still got players in their prime, so nothing to really worry about. Still got players in their prime. They can still rattle off a few Super Bowls, especially if the players actually decide to restructure their contract. If they restructure their contract, a couple guys like Debo did, Debo freed up $16 million. If we can get a couple more guys that'll free up some cash, and let's see what Brock Purdy does with his deal. Maybe there's a deal where he gets paid more on the back end or something where we can continue to keep this core together, at least the majority of it together, long term. We already know Brandon Ayuk is there for long term, and we know Purdy is going to be there long term. But there are other players like Kittle, right? Debo, eventually, that we want to continue to keep on the team. Christian McCaffrey, no doubt. Mason might be a guy pretty soon that might be looking for a payday. Obviously, we don't have to worry about that for a couple of years, or at least until the end of next year. If he decides to hold out and, look for a payday. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how Mason goes. I'm not trying to crown him yet, but he looks good. So that's another player and it's a good problem to have when you have good players like that, guys. I mean, you want to have enough players on your team that are good to where you can fall back on some of these guys, or if they're can be used for a trade or whatever. It's good to have these guys in your arsenal. So overall, coaching staff and everybody helping draft the players, I think they're doing very, very well. Has there been a couple misses? Sure, but overall, Trey Lance, it's a massive miss, but I still think in that draft, it was just like, who do you draft? They were looking for a quarterback, guys. And at their spot, I don't think there was no elite quarterback, I don't think, that was available, no matter where you looked at that point. Maybe if they would have been able to trade up to the second overall pick or first overall pick, maybe you get somebody like Trevor Lawrence or something like that. But overall, he's not even playing at an elite level, but he's playing well enough because he's with the Jaguars and they're a dumpster fire of a team most of the time. So I can't really evaluate his talent and his growth quite yet because I think he got drafted to the wrong team. But who knows? Let's see. The Jaguars aren't horrible because of him, so we'll see where he goes. But either way, I digress. It was kind of a throwaway pick. They should have gone away from quarterback and gotten out there and drafted somebody else. But hindsight's 2020. Brock Purdy, it took 3 quarterback injuries for anybody to even look at him. And now he's like, there's nobody better than him. So, how would you know that? You wouldn't know that when you got the quarterback last pick in the draft. If they could have gone back and said, oh, let me make a few more picks at other positions and just get our, franchise quarterback on our very last pick, yeah, of course they would have done that. But it didn't happen that way because nobody would expect that. It's a great story for Brock Purdy. It's a great story, and it's one that has been successful, is already a success no matter what at this point. If Brock Purdy has a great year this year or just an average year and he gets paid, which he will, that last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, who never dreams of getting paid at all the way Brock Purdy is about to get paid, he's already won. He's already won even if he fails. But he's not going to fail, guys, because if you look at his mentality, his work ethic, and what he does, he's going to succeed. I'm very excited for this story to see where it goes with Brock Purdy. Guy's awesome. I want to talk a little bit for just a minute about what the Niners are doing when it comes to tailgating. And I know this is an off-the-field issue, but I'm just going to talk about it because I don't think they should be doing the fans like this. People who pay money to go see the 49ers play, and we're talking a lot of money, not including the season ticket holders. The season ticket holders shell out $5-10 grand a year per seat to go watch the team play. And now you're telling them you can't show up and do a barbecue, have some food, have a couple beers before you go in because you want them to spend $15 to $20 on a burger and $10 on a beer. That's pretty shady, guys. That's pretty shady for a franchise. Let the fans get there early, park, and have a good time. Right now, they want to usher people in, and they're saying they can't even guarantee that you'll be able to park with your family or friends if you come together. That's bullshit, guys. That's complete bullshit. You should be able to show up and have a day because those people who show up with their family and friends, those are times that they don't get to see their families unless it's on a game day like that. Like they'll show up and spend the day with their family because they haven't seen their cousins or parents or brothers or sisters in 2-3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months, and they get to have that day. Don't take that day away from people. I think it's just kind of like shady. Don't take that away from people to be able to sit out there for a Sunday afternoon and have a good time and then come and watch your game. They're still going to go in there. They're still going to buy your food. They're still going to buy the beers. And you know what? They may buy a little less, but they're still paying for it because guess what? When you go down, you guys serve Bud Light, Coors Light, and every other kind of crap beer that's made out there, right? And you sell them for, I think maybe you sell Coors Light for $8 a beer, $9 a beer, okay? If you go down to the grocery store and buy a 6-pack of Coors Light, it costs you, I don't even know because I haven't bought Coors Light in a long time, but maybe $5. So now you're doubling the price of 6 beers with every beer you sell. And if you sell 3 less, all of a sudden that's not acceptable to give your fans peace of mind and give them a good time. I don't know. You don't need any more money. And by the way, you should have built the stadium in San Francisco where people could actually get to the stadium with all the modes of transportation. I went to a Niner game last year. 2 years ago, Monday Night Football. I left my home in Sonoma County at 11:30 or 12, and I didn't get in the stadium to my seat until the first quarter was almost over. I made it to Santa Clara, but to go a block from 3:30 or so, I sat there and drove from 3:30 to 6:30 almost. No, maybe 6. In what would be maybe a couple square miles, maybe a mile and a half. Couldn't park, couldn't do anything. Horrible location for the stadium, but everybody knows that. Nobody likes the stadium the way it is. So, hey, maybe move it back to San Francisco where it was intended, where you can take BART, or you can take Muni, or bus, or drive, or ferry to get to the stadium. And then, maybe, just maybe, the tailgating thing wouldn't be as big of an issue. But people need a place to be able to park and hang out and chill for a few hours. Because if you don't get there early, you are not going to catch the game at all. So you need to get there really early and get your parking. So I guess my message to the Niners, don't take that away from your fans because your fans already have to drive a long way to get there, sit in their cars, look for parking, walk a half a mile or a mile possibly. And the people who make it, who pay for parking in the stadium parking, that want to just do their tailgating, now they can't do it because you're restricting the rules. Come on, guys. You're better than that. You're better than that, guys. Come on. Bullshit. It's total bullshit. There's like 3,500 people signing a petition to reverse that. I don't know if the Niners are going to listen to it because the Niners own the team. They do what they want. Now today, it's all about money, and ownership wants money. But gosh, let's just not be too greedy. If I was the owner of the 49ers, I don't think I'd pull that one. I mean, you're a top-tier team. You're making money off of jerseys, food, hot dogs, hamburgers, your tickets. You're making money off concerts that go into that stadium when the football players aren't playing there. You're making money. You have different streams of revenue that are just insanely large. Why shave off the smallest amount of revenue you'd be getting by messing with people who want to tailgate? It doesn't make sense, guys. I don't think it makes sense, and I hope the Niners change their mind and decide not to go ahead and, screw these fans out of a good time. It's the only way some of us can afford to be there and actually watch a football game and be able to eat before we go into the game because some of us can't afford to buy a hot dog and a hamburger, let alone if you have kids in a family, 4 hamburgers, 3 hot dogs, 4 beers. I mean, and then whatever else on top of that. That's hundreds of dollars, guys. I'm talking about hundreds of dollars for 4 hamburgers, 4 beers, and some extra sodas and some things. I mean, you're up to a couple $100. Just is what it is. I think it's price gouging. It's horrible price gouging. How are you supposed to take your kids to watch sports, guys? You want the athletes to continue to be athletes? You want to be able to draft people who want to play the sport? Well, don't make it impossible for them to go watch it. Because if they can't go watch it, then, one, you don't have a stadium that you can pay for anymore because everybody's watching it on TV at home. And by the way, watching it on TV at home is more fun. I'm not too old to go to a Niner game yet. I mean, maybe in my 60s, I'll say, you know what? I don't want to travel like that anymore. But not now. But I don't want to go for other reasons. Like, it cost me an entire paycheck. Some, not me, but I mean, it's up there. You know, a full day of a Niner game with tickets and food and everything else is close to $1,000 if you take 3 people. 2 people might be close to $1,000. That's not saying much. That's not taking the entire family, guys. That's taking like you and a kid, and leaving out the wife or leaving out the other kids. So, have to take turns. Sorry, guys. I have allergies that are just killing me. Anyway, I digress. Knock off the tailgating crap, guys. Just let people tailgate. Let them do their thing. I think it's only fair. Let them do their thing. So, that's kind of the cap for the Niners game, guys. I think that's everything. I think I've talked about everything I want to talk about. It was just an amazing game overall. Stay tuned for some Warriors news. I hear the Warriors are still in on Jimmy Butler a little bit. That'd be cool. I wouldn't be sorry for that trade. I'd definitely love to see the Warriors go get Jimmy Butler. Depends on the trade bait. Who's the trade bait for the Warriors? Who's going to go? I mean, I'm not trading away. I mean, there's certain players I'm not trading away if I'm the Warriors to get Jimmy Butler. He's good, but maybe some future picks. Maybe, I mean, there's players on the Warriors that are up for trade bait, but we don't know yet who those guys are yet. We just don't know. I'm not trading Kuminga yet, but I'm about ready to. And I heard the other day that Kuminga might be getting offered an extension. I'd hold off on that crap. I'd wait until halfway through the season at least to start talking about new contracts for Kuminga, because he has not proven himself yet. You're talking $200 million contracts with Kuminga. Forget that noise, guys. Forget that noise. That's crazy. Wait to see him do something before you start throwing that kind of dollar at him. That cheddar is too damn good. You got to hold on to that cheddar. Forget that, guys. So I want to see Kuminga and see what he does. You know, but there's other players that could be traded. I mean, Looney is one that's kind of like, he's a workhorse, and I don't want to see him go. And I'm glad they still got him. But he could be worth trading, possibly, if you're getting Jimmy Butler or somebody like that. But it'd have to be multiple players or a couple draft picks. I mean, you know, there's players that can be moved. So let's talk about the Warriors later. I'm going to have a whole podcast on them. Not a very long one because there's not a lot of news and it's not basketball season, guys, but I'm a huge Warrior fan, so stay tuned for that, because when the season starts, we're going to kick into full podcast mode like every other day. It's going to be a lot of fun talking about the Warriors. So again, guys, I appreciate everything that you do. Please hit the subscribe because you're all watching. I broke 1,000 views so far, which is, again, like I said, not a lot, but we're on our way to making this podcast bigger and better, and I'm super excited about it, and I just want to get more subscribers. So if you guys are out there, hit the subscribe. I appreciate everything. I hope you enjoy everything I'm doing. We're going to talk Niners every week. And I don't know, I'm kind of sporadic. Like, I'm definitely here Fridays and Mondays doing the podcast, but in between, you're probably going to see me jump on and post a video and talk more about either Niners, Warriors, A's, Giants, or even the Sharks. So we'll talk a little bit about all these guys, and I'm not leaving out Sacramento. When basketball starts, I'll talk about the Kings as well. I'm not going to leave them out. So let's just continue what we're doing. I appreciate it. And remember, hard work beats talent when talent don't work. See you in the next one.